My brothers and sisters, may the Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. As Jesus passed by, he saw a man named Matthew sitting at the customs post. He said to him, "Follow me." And he got up and followed him. While he was at table in his house, many tax collectors and sinners came and sat with Jesus and his disciples. The Pharisees saw this and said to his disciples, "Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners?" He heard this and said, "Those who are well do not need a physician, but the sick do. Go and learn the meaning of the words, 'I desire mercy, not sacrifice.' I did not come to call the righteous, but sinners." The Gospel of the Lord. We all probably at one point or another mumble about taxes, and even though we know that such things are a necessity out of justice, sometimes there seems to be an awareness of kind of an inequality and unfairness. And lately we've been seeing a lot of articles about that in the newspaper in conjunction with the proposed tax reform legislation which the government is trying to bring forward, and how perhaps there are those who are of the middle class end up ironically in the present system to pay much more than many millionaires do. Whether that's true or not is to be seen, but the bottom line is there's always complaints about that. We don't like things like taxes. If that's true today, it was surely even more true in the time of Jesus. In the time of Jesus, especially within the Roman system, the tax collector was considered to be very infamous, was considered to be a sinner as far as the pious Jewish community was concerned. And part of that came from the fact that the system and custom was such that somebody would bid for being able to take the taxes, and depending upon who came in with the biggest bid, the Roman government would give them the right to do that, and once they had been given that, they in turn could add on a certain percentage, sometimes even cheating beyond the percentage of what the taxes were for their own gain. And so taxes were phenomenally bad. And coupled with that is the fact that here you have, especially in instances with Judaism, other fellow Jews who have now become instruments of the Roman government in collecting taxes using this coinage of Caesar. And so it doesn't surprise us necessarily that the Pharisees are sort of scandalized by the fact that Jesus not only ends up talking with a tax collector, but actually even goes to his house to have dinner with him. Jesus, of course, is looking at it from a whole different perspective. He's looking at the call of every individual to new life, to a new way of thinking and acting. And he's very quick to tell the Pharisees that it is the sinner that needs the help, and I've come to give that kind of mercy to people. And that surely for us should be a comforting thought, that in God's eyes, every person is worth of value. Every person is somebody who can be attuned and changed in the course of their life if they're only open to God's grace operative in them. Matthew, of course, is seen as one of the 12 apostles, and tradition has it he was also the facilitator, or at least the one behind the writing of one of the Gospels. And his Gospel specifically is the only one that was written in Aramaic, which would have been the local language of the area. And so that, from that perspective, for the scholars, takes of itself sort of a kind of an insight, because many of the things, the words and teachings of Jesus that are alluded to were probably much closer to what Jesus had actually said in comparison to the translations into Greek that the other gospel texts have for us. Matthew shows us a Jesus who is concerned and compassion-filled. He also shows us a Jesus who does not take away the responsibilities of the old covenant code and of the old Mosaic law, but rather kind of challenges us to take them to a step higher, to somehow fine-tune them and make them even more perfect than what they were. Today, then, as we encounter this tax collector, this saint, this sinner turned saint, we're reminded how God continues to call each of us to follow him and to change our ways and our life in order to be much more attuned to what he wants us to be.